They called her dangerous, or cursed, a fire witch branded for crimes she didn't commit. At the mating auction, vampires avoided her, terrified of the mark on her forehead. But the Vampire King saw past fear. He saw the one woman whose blood could break a 500-year curse. In 7 nights, Lysandra Thornhart went from hunted witch to Queen of Nocturna. This is how she turned fear into power. The great hall of Nocturna smelled of desperation and old stone. Torchlight flickered against walls that had witnessed centuries of transactions, each flame casting shadows that danced like ghosts of deals made and broken. The air was thick, heavy, waiting. Lysandra Thornhart stood in the line of women, her hands hidden beneath the folds of her cloak. 24 years old and already a ghost in her own skin. The veil that covered her face was not silk or lace. It was black cotton, thick enough to hide what lay beneath, thick enough to keep the world at a distance. Around her, the other women whispered, adjusted their hair, pinched their cheeks to bring color to pale skin. They were here because life had left them few choices. Too old for first marriages, too scarred by circumstance, too broken by the world's cruelty. But they were not feared. Lysandra was. She could feel the weight of eyes upon her. Not curiosity, not pity. Fear, pure and primal. The kind that made people step back without knowing why. The kind that made mothers pull their children closer when she walked past. The mark on her forehead ensured that. 3 years ago, they had branded her. A witch's mark burned into her skin with silver in ancient words. The cross-shaped scar was small, no larger than a coin, but it might as well have been carved into her soul. Fire witch, murderer, dangerous. The whispers said she had killed her betrothed, Adrian Corveau, a nobleman's son with kind eyes and a gentle smile. They said she had burned him alive in a jealous rage when he chose another. They were wrong. But truth mattered less than fear. A cough echoed from the back of the hall. Lysandra didn't turn. She knew that cough, had heard it every day for 3 years. Her father, Aldrich Thornhart, stood somewhere in the shadows, watching, waiting for her to fail, waiting for his chance to finish what the brand had started. The memory rose like smoke. 3 nights ago, his fist connecting with her ribs, the crack of bone, his voice cold as winter stone. You're a stain on this family, a curse. If you won't leave, I'll make you disappear. That was when Lysandra had made her choice. The mating auction was held once a season in Nocturna. Vampires came seeking companions, servants, blood donors, second or third wives. The women who came here did so because they had nowhere else to go, no family to claim them, no future to hold them. But there was one rule that made the auction sacred. Once a vampire claimed you, your past no longer mattered. No father could retrieve you. No debt could recall you. You belonged to the vampire who chose you. It was a kind of freedom, a dark kind, but freedom nonetheless. Lysandra had walked through her father's door 3 days ago and never looked back. Her sister Isolde had tried to stop her, had gripped her arm with trembling fingers. You'll be a slave, Lys. You'll lose everything. Lysandra had pulled away gently, kissed her sister's forehead. I've already lost everything. At least this way I'll still be breathing. Now she stood in line, listening to the auctioneer's voice drone on. A merchant vampire claimed the woman 3 spaces ahead. A scholarly vampire with ink-stained fingers took the pregnant girl 2 spaces down. One by one, the line shortened. Lysandra's turn approached. The whispers grew louder. That's the one. The fire witch. She killed a man. Burned him to nothing but ash and bone. Why would she come here? Desperate, probably. No vampire would be that desperate. The woman directly in front of Lysandra was claimed by a wealthy merchant seeking a governess. She left the platform with relief written across her face. Lysandra stepped forward. The hall went silent. The auctioneer cleared his throat. His eyes wouldn't meet hers. They slid past the veil, focusing somewhere over her left shoulder. Next offering. His voice cracked slightly. Lysandra Thornhart, age 24, unmarried, no children, no debts. He paused, swallowed hard. Marked witch, fire elemental. The silence deepened. Lysandra kept her head high. She had practiced this. In her room alone, she had stood before the mirror and rehearsed holding her spine straight, keeping her hands steady, not allowing them to see her shake. Seconds passed, no one moved, no one spoke. She could feel their fear like a physical presence. It pressed against her skin, crawled up her spine. The vampires in the audience shifted in their seats. Some whispered behind gloved hands. Others simply stared. At the back of the hall, Aldrich Thornhart watched with cold satisfaction in his eyes. The auctioneer cleared his throat again. Any offers? Silence. Lysandra's heart beat steadily in her chest. She had known this might happen, had prepared herself for the possibility. If no vampire claimed her, she would be returned to her father's custody, and Aldrich would make sure she didn't live to see another auction. Going once, the auctioneer called, though his voice lacked conviction. No one truly expected an offer. Lysandra's hands curled into fists beneath her cloak. She would not beg, would not plead. If this was how it ended, she would face it with her head high. Going twice, the great doors at the back of the hall burst open. The sound was like thunder, like the world splitting apart. Every head turned, every conversation died mid-word. A presence entered the hall that made the air itself seem to bow. Lysandra felt it before she saw him. A cold that had nothing to do with temperature. A power that pressed against her chest like a hand. Ancient, absolute, undeniable. Vampire King Lucian Calestis walked through those doors as if he owned not just the hall, but the very concept of ownership. He was tall, taller than any man Lysandra had ever seen. His hair was dark as midnight, falling past his shoulders in waves that caught the torchlight. His face was carved from pale marble. Sharp cheekbones, a jaw that could cut glass, eyes the color of winter storms. But it was not his beauty that made people step back. It was the coldness that radiated from him. The absolute certainty in every movement. The way his gaze swept across the room and people dropped their eyes rather than meet it. He had ruled Nocturna for 900 years, 9 centuries of absolute power, of loneliness so deep it had carved itself into his bones. Everyone knew the stories, the vampire king who could not love, who had never taken a queen, who had watched kingdoms rise and fall while remaining eternally alone. They said he was cursed. They were right. Lucien Calestis walked down the center aisle. His boots made no sound on the stone floor. Vampires who had lived for centuries pressed themselves against the walls to let him pass. He acknowledged no one, spoke to no one. He stopped directly in front of the platform, directly in front of Lysandra. His eyes met hers through the veil, gray as winter frost, deep as ancient ice. For a long moment, he simply looked at her, studied her. Lysandra felt something twist in her chest, not fear, something else, something she couldn't name. When Lucien spoke, his voice was like cold water over stone. Clear, precise, final. I'll claim her. The hall erupted. Gasps, whispers, the sound of shock rippling through the crowd like a wave. The auctioneer's mouth fell open. Aldrich Thornhart surged forward from the back of the hall, his face twisted with fury. But Lucien Calestis did not move, did not blink. His gaze remained locked on Lysandra. Your Majesty, the auctioneer stammered, you understand that she is mocked. A witch. Dangerous. I understand. Lucian's tone suggested the conversation was over. But Your Majesty surely, Lucian turned his head slightly, just enough for the auctioneer to see his eyes. The man's words died in his throat. I have made my claim. Each word fell like a stone into still water. Unless you wish to dispute the right of kings. The auctioneer paled. No, Your Majesty. Of course not. Aldrich Thornhart pushed through the crowd. His face was red. Veins stood out on his forehead. Your Majesty, I must protest. That woman is my daughter. She is dangerous, unstable. She murdered her betrothed in cold blood. Lucian looked at Aldrich the way one might look at an insect, with mild interest and complete detachment. She is no longer your concern. She is mine. You don't understand what she is, Aldrich insisted, his voice rising. What she's capable of. I understand perfectly. Lucian's eyes remained cold, empty. She is a witch. She is marked. She is feared. He paused. And she is now under my protection. If you have a problem with that, Aldrich Thornhart, I invite you to take it up with me personally. The threat hung in the air like a blade. Aldrich's mouth worked. His fists clenched and unclenched at his sides. But he was not fool enough to challenge a vampire king. Not here. Not now. He stepped back. Lucian turned his attention back to Lysandra, extended his hand toward her. Come. It was not a request. Lysandra looked at that outstretched hand, pale as moonlight, strong, steady. For 3 years, every hand that had reached for her had meant pain, violence, rejection. This hand promised something different. Uncertainty, perhaps, the unknown, but also escape. She placed her hand in his. His skin was cold. Colder than any vampire she had ever touched. Not the cool of the undead, but something deeper, as if winter itself lived beneath his skin. He helped her down from the platform with surprising gentleness. His grip was firm, but not crushing, careful as if he knew exactly how much strength to use. The crowd parted before them as they walked toward the door. Lysandra kept her eyes forward, did not look at the faces that watched them pass, did not acknowledge the whispers that followed in their wake. At the threshold, she allowed herself one glance back. Aldrich stood frozen in the center of the hall. His face was a mask of rage and something else, something that looked like fear. Good. Let him be afraid for once. The doors closed behind them with a sound like finality. The carriage that waited outside was black as night, polished to a mirror shine. The horses that pulled it were pale gray, their eyes luminous in the darkness. Lucienne handed Lysandra inside without a word. The interior was lined with dark velvet, soft, expensive. A world away from the rough wagon beds and stone floors she had known. He sat across from her. The space between them felt vast despite the carriage's small confines. They rode in silence. Lysandra studied him from behind her veil. In the dim light filtering through the curtained windows, he looked carved from ice. Perfect, cold, untouchable. She wondered what he saw when he looked at her. Just the veil, the shape of a woman beneath heavy fabric? Or could he sense the fire that lived in her blood? You are wondering why I chose you. His voice broke the silence like a stone through glass. Lysandra started slightly. She had not expected him to speak. Yes, Your Majesty. Lucien, he leaned back against the velvet seat. When we are alone, you will call me Lucien. Lucien, the name felt strange on her tongue, intimate. Why did you choose me? He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his words came slowly, carefully. Because you are the one woman in that hall whom I can never truly know. Lysandra's brow furrowed behind her veil. I don't understand. You will. He turned his gaze to the window. In time, the carriage rolled through the night, through streets that grew wider, cleaner, the buildings taller, more ornate. They were leaving the merchant quarter, entering the realm of nobles and ancient power. Finally, the carriage stopped. Lysandra looked out the window and her breath caught. The castle rose before them like a dream carved from shadow and stone. Towers pierced the sky, windows glowed with soft light, gardens spread in all directions, even in the darkness, looking impossibly beautiful. It was a palace, a fortress, a monument to centuries of power, and it was to be her home. Lucien helped her from the carriage. His hand remained cold in hers. They walked through gardens where night-blooming flowers released perfume into the air. Up marble steps worn smooth by countless feet over countless years. The doors opened before them. Servants bowed as they passed. None looked directly at Lysandra. Whether from respect or fear, she could not tell. The interior of the castle was vast. Corridors stretched in all directions. Ceilings soared overhead, painted with scenes of battles and coronations and moments frozen in time. Lucien led her through the maze without hesitation. His steps were sure, confident. He knew every inch of this place. They stopped before a heavy wooden door. Your chambers, Lucien said. You will find everything you need inside. Servants will attend you. They have been selected carefully. Lysandra understood. Blind servants, those who could not see her face, could not report what lay beneath the veil. Thank you. Her voice was soft. Lucien inclined his head. Tomorrow evening we will discuss the terms of our arrangement. For now, rest. He turned to leave. Lucien, he paused, looked back. Why did you say servants were selected carefully? His eyes met hers through the veil. For the first time, she saw something flicker in that cold gaze, something that might have been understanding. Because I am not asking you to remove your veil, Lysandra. I will honor whatever privacy you require. With that, he was gone, his footsteps fading into the vast silence of the castle. Lysandra stood alone before the door. Her hand trembled slightly as she reached for the handle. Inside, the chambers were beautiful. A four-poster bed draped in midnight blue. Windows that overlooked the gardens. A fireplace where flames danced merrily. Bookshelves lined one wall. A writing desk sat by the window. And standing in the corner, 3 women waited. Their eyes were milky white, blind as Lucien had promised. Your Majesty, the eldest stepped forward. Her voice was gentle, kind. We are here to serve you. My name is Helena. This is Rose and Mara. They curtsied. Lysandra's throat tightened. When was the last time anyone had curtsied to her? Called Her Majesty, please, she managed. There's no need for such formality. Helena smiled. You are our queen, my lady. We will show you every courtesy. They helped her undress, drew a bath scented with lavender and something sweeter, oils that made her skin feel soft for the first time in years. They did not ask to see her face, did not comment on the veil she kept even in the privacy of her rooms. They simply served, gently, respectfully. When Lysandra finally lay in the great bed, the sheets cool against her skin, she stared up at the canopy overhead. She was in a castle, in the Vampire King's castle. Tomorrow she would learn the price of her freedom, but tonight, for the first time in 3 years, she was safe. She closed her eyes and slept without fear. The next evening, Lysandra was summoned to Lucien's study. She walked through corridors lit by candles. Helena guided her, her blind eyes somehow knowing every turn, every step. They stopped before a door of dark oak. His Majesty awaits you, Queen Lysandra. Lysandra knocked. Once. Twice. Enter. The study was lined with books. Floor to ceiling, thousands of volumes covered every wall. A desk dominated the center of the room, covered in maps and documents. A fire burned low in the hearth. Lucien stood by the window, his back to her. He wore black as he had the night before, as if color had no place in his world. Sit. He gestured to a chair before the desk without turning around. Lysandra sat, her hands folded in her lap, waiting. Lucien turned. In the firelight, his features seemed carved from shadow and ice, beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with warmth. He moved to sit behind the desk, steepled his fingers beneath his chin. We must discuss the terms of our arrangement. Yes, Your Majesty. Lucien, he corrected softly. Lucien. He pulled a document from the desk, slid it toward her. A marriage contract. I had it prepared this morning. Lysandra's pulse quickened. Marriage, not just companionship, not servitude. Marriage. She picked up the document with trembling fingers, read the terms written in elegant script. I will never see your face. Lucien's voice was matter of fact. I will never ask you to remove your veil in my presence. Your privacy will remain absolute. Lysandra looked up. Why? Because I believe everyone deserves their secrets. His eyes met hers. You have yours. I have mine. She looked back at the document, continued reading. You will bear me an heir, preferably more than one, to secure the succession. Her breath caught. An heir. Children. After the children are born, we will live separate lives. You will have your chambers. I will have mine. We will attend royal functions together when necessary, 3 or 4 times a year. No more. Lysandra's fingers tightened on the parchment. We will not share meals. We will not spend time together beyond what is necessary to produce children. We will not develop attachments. The word hung in the air like frost. Lysandra read the final clause, the one that made everything else make sense. This marriage will be contractual only. There will be no love between us. She looked up, met his gray eyes. You're asking me to marry you, to give you children, but never to love you. Yes. No hesitation, no emotion. That is exactly what I'm asking. Lysandra leaned back in her chair, studied the man across from her, so cold, so controlled, so desperately lonely beneath it all. May I ask why? Lucien was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was quieter, almost vulnerable. Because love is the one luxury I cannot afford. There was a story there, a pain so deep it had carved itself into his bones, but Lysandra did not press. She understood secrets, understood the need to keep some wounds hidden. She looked at the contract again, read through the terms one more time. No love, no companionship, just duty, just arrangement. It should have hurt, should have felt like another rejection, another person telling her she was not worthy of affection. But instead, Lysandra felt something unexpected. Relief. Because love had only ever brought her pain, her father's twisted version of it, Adrian's gentle promises that had ended in flames and accusations, Isolde's desperate clinging that she could never truly return. Love was dangerous. Love was fire that burned everything it touched. This cold arrangement was safe. She picked up the quill, dipped it in ink. These terms are acceptable. She signed her name in careful script. Lysandra Thornhart, soon to be Lysandra Calestis. Lucien took the document, signed his own name below hers. The wedding will take place in 3 days. I've already sent word to the council. They will attend as witnesses. 3 days, Lysandra's voice was steady. Is that a problem? No, I have nothing to prepare. No family to invite. She paused. Only a sister who would try to talk me out of it. Something flickered in Lucien's eyes. You may invite her if you wish. Lysandra shook her head. Better she remembers me as I was, not as I will become. Lucien studied her for a long moment, then he stood. There is one more thing you should know. Lysandra rose as well. I chose you, Lysandra Thornhart, because you are the one woman I believed I could never love, the one woman I could never truly see, never truly know. He moved closer, close enough that she could feel the cold radiating from him. I thought that would keep us both safe. Safe from what? He did not answer. Instead, he reached out, slowly, giving her time to pull away. His hand touched her cheek, just the lightest pressure through the veil. You're wearing armor, he said softly, and so am I. Mine is just less visible. Then he stepped back. The moment broke like glass. Helena will help you prepare for the wedding. If you need anything, you need only ask. He moved toward the door. Lucien? He paused. Thank you. Lysandra's voice was barely a whisper. For your kindness. He turned back. Confusion crossed his features. Kindness. Yes. Lysandra gestured around the study. At the castle beyond. You've given me safety, privacy, respect. That is more than I've known in a very long time. Lucien looked at her as if she had spoken in a foreign language, as if the concept of gratitude for basic decency was entirely unfamiliar. I am simply honoring the terms we agreed upon. Even so, thank you. He left without another word, but Lysandra thought she saw something in his eyes as he turned away. Something that looked like pain. 3 days passed in a blur of preparation. Helena and the other blind servants dressed Lysandra in silk and velvet. They draped her in fabrics that felt like water against her skin, placed a crown of silver and sapphires on her veiled head. In the mirror, Lysandra barely recognized herself. She looked like a queen, felt like an imposter. The wedding was held at midnight in the castle's chapel. Ancient stone walls, stained glass windows that glowed with captured moonlight. Candles everywhere, their flames dancing in an unseen breeze. The council sat in the front rows. 12 vampires, each ancient and powerful in their own right. They watched with expressionless faces as Lysandra walked down the aisle alone. No father to give her away, no family to witness. Just her and the decision she had made. Lucien waited at the altar. He wore black and silver. His hair was pulled back. His face could have been carved from marble. The ceremony was brief, efficient. Words spoken by a priest whose voice trembled slightly. Lucien's vows were delivered without emotion. I take you as my wife, my queen, my responsibility. Lysandra's vows came from a place deeper than words. I take you as my husband, my king, my choice. The priest called for the exchange of rings. Lucien's hands were cold as winter when he slid the band onto her finger. Silver etched with ancient symbols, a queen's ring, heavy with the weight of centuries. Lysandra placed his ring on his hand, felt the coldness of his skin beneath her fingertips. By the power vested in me, and before these witnesses, I declare you husband and wife, bound by contract and law. The priest hesitated. You may seal the union. Lucien looked at Lysandra. His eyes were unreadable. He lifted her hand, slowly, brought it to his lips. The kiss was cold, formal. His mouth barely touched her gloved knuckles. It was not what anyone expected. The council shifted in their seats. Whispers rose like smoke. But Lucien did not lift her veil, did not attempt to kiss her mouth. He had promised, and he kept his promises. Queen Lysandra, he spoke clearly, loud enough for all to hear. Welcome to House Caelestis. The council stood, bowed. Lysandra stood before them, a veiled queen, a fire witch, a woman marked as dangerous. And for the first time in 3 years, she felt something close to hope. The wedding night. Lysandra stood in her chambers, her heart beating like a trapped bird. The blind servants had prepared her, had dressed her in a nightgown of silk so fine it felt like air against her skin. They had left candles burning, just a few, enough light to see shadows, not enough to reveal details. Then they had gone, leaving her alone, waiting. 3 soft knocks at the door. Lysandra's breath caught. Come in. The door opened. Lucien stepped inside. He had changed from his wedding clothes. Now he wore only dark trousers and a white shirt unlaced at the throat. He looked younger somehow, less like a king, more like a man. He closed the door behind him. The sounds seemed to echo in the quiet room. They stood facing each other. The bed loomed large between them. I brought this. Lucian held up a strip of black silk, a blindfold. If you're worried I might see you, even accidentally. The consideration in that gesture made Lysandra's throat tight. You would blind yourself for me? I made a promise. His voice was soft. I keep my promises. Lysandra moved closer, close enough to smell the faint scent that clung to him. Winter pine, old books, something else, something uniquely him. Turn around. He obeyed without question. Lysandra's hands shook as she tied the blindfold over his eyes. Her fingers brushed against his hair, softer than she had expected, like silk. Is it secure? She whispered. Yes. Lysandra moved to the candles. One by one she extinguished them. Darkness fell over the room like a blanket. Complete. Total. She could hear Lucien's breathing. Steady, controlled, her own heart hammered in her chest. She removed her veil in the darkness, let it fall to the floor. Then the nightgown. The silk whispered against her skin as it pooled at her feet. She stood naked in the dark, exposed, vulnerable, free. Lysandra. Lucian's voice found her in the blackness. Are you afraid? She thought about that, about fear, about the years of hiding, of running. No, she realized. I'm not afraid of you. You should be. His voice held something new, something raw. I'm a vampire, a king, a creature built for control and coldness. And I'm a fire witch. Lysandra moved closer, close enough to feel the cold radiating from him. They say I burned a man to ash. Maybe you should be afraid of me. She heard him exhale, almost like a laugh. Maybe we should be afraid of each other. Maybe. Lysandra reached out in the darkness. Her hand found his chest. She felt his shirt beneath her palm, felt the muscles underneath. But I don't think fear is what this is. She began to unbutton his shirt, slowly. Her fingers fumbled slightly in the dark. Lucian stood absolutely still, barely breathing, as if afraid to move, afraid to break whatever spell held them in this moment. The shirt fell open. Lysandra placed her palm against his bare chest. His skin was cold, ice cold. She should have pulled back, should have been frightened by that inhuman temperature. Instead, she pressed closer. Lucian's hand came up, hesitant, uncertain. It touched her shoulder, just the lightest pressure. Then his fingers traced down her arm, exploring, learning the shape of her without sight. You're warm, he whispered, wonder in his voice. So warm. And you're cold. Does it bother you? Lysandra leaned into him, pressed her warmth against his cold. No. His arms came around her then, slowly, carefully, as if she were something precious, something that might shatter. They stood like that for a long moment. Fire and ice, witch and vampire. Two people who had built walls so high they had forgotten what it felt like to be touched with gentleness. When Lucian kissed her, it was not the cold formal press of lips from the ceremony. It was soft, questioning, his mouth cool against hers. Lysandra kissed him back, her hands tangled in his hair. She felt him shudder, felt the control he kept so tightly leashed begin to crack. They moved to the bed, slowly, without words. In the darkness, with his eyes covered and her face free, they came together, fire and ice, and for the first time in both their long, lonely lives, neither felt cold. Lysandra woke alone. The bed beside her was empty, cool sheets where Lucien had lain. She sat up, reached for her veil in the early morning darkness, placed it over her face before opening the curtains. Dawn was breaking, pink and gold across the sky. Lucian was gone, as he had promised, separate lives, no attachments. But on the pillow where his head had rested, he had left something, a single white rose. Lysandra picked it up, brought it to her face, breathed in its fragrance. No note, no explanation, just a rose, a small gesture. Meaningless, perhaps, but Lysandra found herself smiling behind her veil. The door opened. Helena entered with a tray. Good morning, Your Majesty. I've brought breakfast. Helena, Lysandra's voice was quiet. Does His Majesty often leave gifts? Helena paused, set down the tray. I have served in this castle for 40 years, Your Majesty. Her blind eyes turned in Lysandra's direction. I have never known him to leave anything for anyone. She smiled gently. Until now. The weeks that followed the wedding blurred together like watercolors bleeding across canvas. Lucian came to Lysandra's chambers each night, always after darkness had fully fallen, always with the same 3 soft knocks that became as familiar as her own heartbeat. They never spoke of it during the day. In the corridors, they passed each other like strangers. Polite nods, Formal acknowledgments. The distance they had promised to maintain. But in the darkness with blindfold and veil, they were something else entirely. Something neither could name. Lysandra began to learn him. The way his breath caught when she traced the line of his collarbone. The soft sound he made when she kissed the hollow of his throat. The absolute stillness he fell into after as if he had forgotten how to move. He learned her too. Discovered that she was ticklish along her ribs. That she sighed when he ran his fingers through her hair. That afterward she would curl against his cold chest as if seeking shelter from a storm. And he would hold her, for longer and longer each night. Sometimes they talked, whispered conversations in the dark about nothing and everything. "What do you read?" Lucien asked one night, his fingers trailing absent patterns on her shoulder. "Philosophy, history, anything about magic." Lysandra's head rested against his chest. She could hear his heart, slow, steady. "I taught myself. My father forbade tutors after the marking. There's a library, West Wing, 3rd floor." His voice rumbled beneath her ear. "Thousands of volumes, many on elemental magic. You would let me access it. It's your home now. You may go anywhere you wish." Lysandra was quiet for a moment. "Even if I'm dangerous," Lucien's hand stilled. "You keep using that word. Dangerous, as if you believe it. Everyone else does." "I don't." She lifted her head, wished she could see his face in the darkness. "Why not?" "Because dangerous people don't warn others about their danger. They simply destroy." His thumb traced her jawline. "You're not dangerous, Lysandra. You're afraid of your own power. There's a difference." The words settled into her chest, warm. "True. Have you ever been afraid of yours?" she whispered. Lucien was silent for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. "Every day," he finally said, "for 900 years. 6 weeks after the wedding, Lysandra woke with nausea clawing at her throat. She barely made it to the basin before her stomach emptied itself. Helena rushed to her side, pressing a cool cloth to her forehead. "Your Majesty, shall I call the physician?" Lysandra shook her head, wiped her mouth. "It's nothing. Something I ate." But the next morning it happened again, and the morning after that. Helena said nothing, simply held Lysandra's hair, brought her dry bread and weak tea. On the 4th morning, when the nausea had passed, Helena spoke quietly. "Shall I prepare the nursery, Your Majesty?" Lysandra's hand went to her stomach, still flat, still unchanged. "It's too soon to know." Helena smiled. "I served the late queen. I know the signs." The physician confirmed it that afternoon, Doctor. Theron, an ancient vampire with kind eyes and gentle hands, examined her thoroughly. "Congratulations, Your Majesty. You're with child." Lysandra sat very still. A child, growing inside her, half vampire, half witch, half Lucien. "How far along?" 6 weeks, I'd estimate. Perhaps 7. Dr. Theron made notes on his parchment. "The child's heartbeat is strong, unusually strong for this stage. Is that normal for a vampire-witch pairing?" The doctor hesitated. "Your Majesty, such pairings are extremely rare. I've only seen 3 in my 5 centuries of practice. Each pregnancy was unique. Unique how, faster than human pregnancies. The children were powerful from birth, magic and vampire abilities manifesting immediately." He set down his quill. "You should prepare yourself. This will not be a typical pregnancy." Lysandra placed her hand over her still flat stomach. "Nothing about my life has ever been typical." She told Lucien that night. He had come as always. 3 soft knocks. Darkness. Blindfold. But instead of moving to the bed, Lysandra caught his hand. "I need to tell you something." Lucien went still. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong." She guided his hand to her stomach, pressed his palm flat against the silk of her nightgown. "I'm pregnant." The silence stretched. Seconds became minutes. Lucien's hand remained on her stomach, unmoving. His breathing had stopped. "Lucien, you're certain?" His voice was barely a whisper. The physician confirmed it today. His hand trembled, just slightly, enough for her to feel it. "A child." He sounded uncertain, lost. "We're having a child." Lysandra covered his hand with hers. "Yes." She expected him to pull away, to remember their agreement. Separate lives, no attachments. Instead, he sank to his knees before her. His forehead pressed against her stomach. His arms came around her waist. "I don't know how to do this," he confessed into the darkness. Lysandra's fingers found his hair, stroked gently. "Neither do I." They stayed like that for a long time. King and queen, vampire and witch. Two frightened people facing something neither understood. When Lucien finally stood, his voice was different, warmer somehow. You should rest. The pregnancy will take strength. Will you stay? The words slipped out before she could stop them. Another pause. Yes, I'll stay. He led her to the bed, helped her lie down. Then he lay beside her, pulling her carefully against his chest. His hand rested on her stomach. Protective, possessive. I won't let anything harm you, he murmured. Or the child, I swear it. Lysandra closed her eyes. Let herself believe it. For tonight, at least. The pregnancy progressed with alarming speed. By the second week, her stomach had begun to swell. By the fourth, she looked 6 months along. Dr. Theron monitored her closely. The child is growing faster than any I've documented. Strong magical signature. Strong vampire traits. You're carrying something remarkable, Your Majesty. Lysandra felt it, the power growing inside her, fire and ice braiding together, creating something new, something neither fully vampire nor fully witch. Lucien became protective to the point of obsession. He moved his study to the chambers adjoining hers, insisted she rest constantly, had meals brought to her rooms. The servants whispered. The court noticed. The king, who had promised no attachments, could not seem to leave his queen's side. In the darkness of night, he would lie with his ear pressed to her stomach, listening. I can hear the heartbeat, he whispered one night, wonder in his voice. Fast, strong. Like yours, faster than mine ever was. His hand splayed across her swollen belly. Lysandra, I need to tell you something. She waited. I know I said we would live separate lives, that we wouldn't develop attachments. He paused, searching for words. But I find myself concerned. For you. For the child. Lysandra's throat tightened. Concerned. More than concerned. His voice dropped. I think about you during the day. Wonder if you're comfortable, if you need anything. When I'm in council meetings, I'm counting the hours until I can return to you. Her heart beat faster. That's not part of our arrangement, she whispered. I know. He sounded pained. I'm sorry, I'm trying to maintain distance, but it's becoming difficult. Lysandra took his hand, guided it to her chest, let him feel her heartbeat. It's difficult for me, too. The admission hung between them. Dangerous, forbidden. They did not speak of love, did not name what was growing between them alongside the child, but it was there, undeniable as the dawn. 7 weeks after the pregnancy began, Lysandra went into labor. It started with a sharp pain that doubled her over during breakfast. Helena called for Dr. Theron immediately, sent urgent word to Lucien. The labor was fast, brutal. Lysandra had never known pain like this. It consumed her, burned through her like fire through dry wood. Between contractions, she heard voices. Dr. Theron, the child is coming faster than expected. This is unusual even for vampire births. Helena, she's strong, she'll survive this. And Lucien, his voice tight with worry. Lysandra, I'm here. She reached for him blindly, found his cold hand, gripped it hard enough to hurt. Don't leave, she gasped. Never. I'm not going anywhere. He stayed, through all of it, held her moccasin, whispered words of encouragement, let her crush his fingers during the worst contractions. And then as night fell outside the windows, a cry pierced the air. High, strong, furious. Dr. Theron lifted a tiny squirming form. It's a boy, Your Majesty. A healthy, perfect boy. Lysandra collapsed back against the pillows, exhausted, triumphant. Dr. Theron cleaned the baby, wrapped him in soft blankets, brought him to Lysandra. She held her son for the first time. He was beautiful, perfect. Tiny fists waved in the air, his eyes opened, golden, not red like vampire eyes, not human brown, pure molten gold. And as she watched, small flames danced across his fingertips, there and gone in an instant. He has magic, she breathed, and vampire strength. Dr. Theron pointed to the baby's mouth. Tiny fangs were already visible. I've never seen anything like him. Lucien stood frozen at the bedside, staring at the child in Lysandra's arms. Would you like to hold him? She asked softly. He nodded, unable to speak. Lysandra placed the baby in his arms, watched as 900 years of loneliness met new life. Lucien's face transformed. The coldness melted away. His eyes filled with tears, blood tears that tracked down his pale cheeks. Hello, he whispered to the baby. Hello, little one. The baby made a soft sound, His golden eyes focused on his father's face. "What shall we name him?" Lysandra asked. Lucian looked at her, then back at the baby. "Cassian, it means watchful guardian in the old tongue." He touched the baby's tiny hand. Cassian's fingers wrapped around his father's. "He'll need to be strong, to carry both our legacies." "Cassian," Lysandra repeated. "It's perfect." Lucian sat on the edge of the bed, the three of them together, a family. "Lysandra," his voice cracked, "I need to tell you something." She waited, heart pounding. "I love him." Tears continued to fall. "I know I said I wouldn't, couldn't, but I love this child so much it feels like it might break me." Lysandra reached out, touched his face, felt the blood tears on her fingers. "So do I." Lucian smiled, the first true smile she had ever seen from him. And then he gasped. The smile froze, twisted into something else, pain. His hand flew to his chest, directly over his heart. "Lucien!" Lysandra struggled to sit up. "What's wrong?" He tried to speak. No words came out. His skin, already pale, turned white as snow. Cracks appeared, starting at his heart, spreading outward like ice breaking across a frozen lake. Thin black lines racing across his skin. "No." Lysandra's voice rose. "No, no, no." Lucian's eyes met hers, wide, fearful, understanding. The curse. He handed Cassian back to her with shaking hands, stumbled backward. "Lucien." He fell to his knees. More cracks spread. His chest, his arms, his neck. Everywhere. Dr. Theron rushed forward. "Your Majesty." But there was nothing he could do. Nothing anyone could do. Black ash began to seep from the cracks, like his body was burning from the inside. Lucian looked up at Lysandra, at Cassian in her arms. "I'm sorry," he managed. Each word seemed to cost him. "The curse. I fell in love. With him. With you both." "Take it back," Lysandra screamed. "Stop loving us. Whatever you have to do, stop." He shook his head, smiled despite the agony written across his face. "I can't. I wouldn't, even if I could." More ash, more cracks. He was breaking apart before her eyes. Dr. Theron pressed a hand to Lucien's chest, pulled back immediately. His heart, it's turning to ash. "How long?" Lysandra demanded. 3 days, perhaps less. When his heart fully converts, he'll burn to nothing and at the next dawn. 3 days, 72 hours before she lost him. Lucian collapsed completely. Guards rushed in, carried him to his chambers. Dr. Theron followed barking orders. Lysandra sat alone in the birthing bed, Cassian crying in her arms, blood and ash on her hands. This was the price of love. This was why Lucian had been so careful, so cold, and now he was dying because he had allowed himself to feel. Helena appeared at her side. "Your Majesty, what can I do?" Lysandra looked down at her son, at the baby who had just been born into a world that might take his father before he knew him. "Send word to my sister. Tell her to come immediately." "Your sister, Your Majesty." "Isolde," Lysandra's voice was steel. "And send for every witch in the kingdom who knows about curses. I don't care what it costs. I need answers." "Yes, Your Majesty." Helena hurried out. Lysandra sat in the growing darkness, held her son close. "I won't let him die," she whispered. "I promise you. Your father will survive this." Cassian's golden eyes watched her. Small flames flickered around his tiny fists. Fire answering fire. Isolde arrived 2 days later. She burst into Lysandra's chambers, still wearing traveling clothes, her dark hair windswept, her face pale with worry. "Lys," she stopped short at the sight of her sister holding a baby. "You have a child. His name is Cassian." Lysandra's voice was hollow. "And his father is dying." She told Isolde everything. The curse, Lucien's confession, the ash spreading through his body. Isolde sank into a chair. "The Caelestis curse. I've heard of it. Every vampire king of that line has died of it eventually. How? They fall in love. Their hearts turn to ash. At the next dawn, after the transformation completes, they burn. There must be a way to break it." Isolde shook her head slowly. "If there is, no one's found it in 500 years. "Then I'll be the first." Lysandra stood, handed Cassian to Isolde. "Watch him. I need to see my husband." She walked through the castle corridors. Servants bowed, whispered. The news had spread. The king was dying. Lysandra found Lucien's chambers guarded by 6 soldiers. They stood aside immediately when they saw her. Inside the room was dim, cold, colder than it should be. Lucian lay in his bed, barely conscious. The cracks had spread further, covered half his body now. Ash leaked from the wounds like dark blood. Dr. Theron looked up as she entered, shook his head slightly. No change, Your Majesty. The process continues. Lysandra moved to Lucien's side, took his hand. It was ice cold, cracking where she touched it. His eyes opened, focused on her with effort. Lysandra. His voice was a rasp. The baby. Is he well? Cassian is perfect. She stroked his hair. Strong, beautiful. He has your eyes. Lucien smiled weakly. Good, that's good. I'm going to save you. There's no cure. We both know that. I'll find one anyway. She leaned closer. You don't get to leave me, Lucien Caelestis. Not after everything. Not now. I'm sorry. His hand tightened on hers. I broke our agreement. I fell in love. With Cassian. With you. Lysandra's breath caught. With me? How could I not? He coughed. Ash fell from his lips. You're incredible. Brave. Kind. Everything I've spent 900 years believing I didn't deserve. Tears fell down her face. You deserve everything. I'm dying because I dared to love. His eyes held hers, and I have no regrets. Well, I do. Lysandra's voice shook. I regret not telling you sooner that I love you too. Lucian's eyes widened. Lysandra, I love you. I've been falling for weeks, months maybe. Every night in the darkness. Every stolen moment. Every time you stayed when you should have left. She pressed her forehead to his. I love you, and I'm going to save you. She kissed him, tasted ash on his lips. When she pulled back, more cracks had appeared on his face. Dr. Theron cleared his throat. Your Majesty, perhaps you should rest. The birth was only 2 days ago. I'll rest when he's healed. Lysandra stood. How long until the next dawn? 1 day, 12 hours. Then that's how long I have. She left Lucien's chambers, strode through the corridors with purpose. She needed answers, needed to find whoever had created this curse, needed to find a way to break it. The answer came from an unexpected source. That afternoon, a messenger arrived at the castle, a young girl no more than 15. She carried a message written on ancient parchment. Helena brought it to Lysandra. From someone called Erlis, Your Majesty. She says she knows about the curse. Lysandra unfolded the parchment, read the elegant script. Your Majesty, I am Erlis Moonwhisper, keeper of the old magic. I know what afflicts your husband. I know how it began, and I may know how to end it. If you wish to save him, come to the Thornwood at sunset. Come alone. Come unveiled. Time is short. Choose quickly. Erlis. Lysandra read it twice. A trap, possibly. But what choice did she have? Prepare a carriage, she told Helena. I leave at sunset. Your Majesty, you've just given birth 3 days ago. You should be in bed. My husband is dying. I will not lie in bed while he turns to ash. Helena hesitated, then nodded. As you wish. The Thornwood lay 3 hours' ride from the castle. Ancient trees that predated the kingdom. A place where magic still ran wild and free. Lysandra rode in the carriage, cushioned against the jolting. Her body still ached from the birth, but she gritted her teeth through the discomfort. At the edge of the Thornwood, she stepped down from the carriage, tied the horses to a tree. The sun was setting, painting the sky gold and crimson. She walked into the forest. The trees closed around her, thick, dark, alive with whispers. In a clearing lit by moonlight, she found her. Erlis Moonwhisper was ancient, her hair silver as starlight, her eyes the color of deep water. She wore robes that seemed woven from shadow and mist. Power radiated from her like heat from a forge. You came. Erlis's voice was ageless, neither young nor old, and unveiled as I asked. Lysandra had removed her veil for the journey. Now she stood barefaced before the stranger, the witch's mark on her forehead visible. Erlis studied her, smiled. You have your grandmother's eyes. Lysandra froze. My grandmother. Alara Thornheart, the most powerful fire witch of her generation. Erlis moved closer. She was my student, my friend, and the woman who created the Caelestis curse. The world tilted. What? Sit, child. This is a long story, and you need to hear all of it. Lysandra sat on a fallen log. Her legs would not hold her. Erlis settled across from her. The moonlight made her seem to glow. 500 years ago, your grandmother fell in love with a vampire. Not just any vampire. Prince Aldrich Caelestis, brother to the king. Lysandra's mind raced. Aldrich, Her father's name was Aldrich. They loved in secret, married in shadow. She bore him a son. Erlis's eyes were sad, but when the king discovered the union, he was furious, called it an abomination, ordered both Alara and the child killed. What happened? Prince Aldrich tried to protect them, but the king was too powerful. He killed the prince, killed the child. Erlis's voice hardened. Alara barely escaped, but she lost everything. Her husband, her baby, her entire world. So she cursed the bloodline. She cursed the kings, every king who would come after. She made it so they could never know love without dying for it. Erlis met Lysandra's eyes. It was revenge, pure and simple. And my father, Lysandra's voice shook. Where does he fit? Alara had another child years later, a daughter, born of bitterness and desperation. Erlis paused. That daughter was your father's mother. Aldrich Thornheart is Alara's grandson. He carries her blood, her magic. Lysandra's world cracked apart. Her father, a witch, descended from the woman who cursed the Caelestis line. He knows. The words came slowly. He's always known. That's why he hated my magic. Why he hid his own. Why he killed my mother when she discovered the truth. Yes, Erlis nodded. He has spent his life hiding from what he is. And you, child, were proof of his shame. Lysandra stood, paced the clearing. The man I love is dying because of my bloodline. My grandmother's curse is killing him. Yes. Then I can break it. She turned to Erlis. If my blood created it, my blood can end it. Erlis smiled, sad and proud at once. You are truly Alara's descendant. She would have said the same thing. Tell me how. The curse is keyed to fire, to burn away love before it can fully bloom. Erlis stood, moved to Lysandra, placed a hand on her chest. To break it, you need three things. Fire magic, your blood, and Lucien's willing acceptance of both. My magic is bound. My father sealed it after Adrian died. Then you must unseal it. How? Only the one who created the seal can break it. Erlis's eyes glinted. You must face your father. Lysandra's hands clenched. Aldrich, the man who had beaten her, branded her, destroyed her life. She would have to see him again. Beg him for help. He'll refuse, she said quietly. Then you must make him agree. How? Erlis smiled, sharp as broken glass. That, my dear, is up to you. Lysandra rode back to the castle through the night. Her mind churned with plans, strategies. When she arrived at dawn, guards met her at the gate. Your Majesty, the council has called an emergency session. They demand your presence for your... Lysandra's heart sank, but she nodded. Take me to them. The council chamber was filled with 12 ancient vampires, all watching her with cold eyes as she entered. Lord Brennus the eldest stood. Your Majesty, we have grave concerns about recent events. Then voice them. Lysandra's voice was steel. The king is cursed, dying. This curse stems from fire magic. Brennus gestured at her. You are a fire witch. It seems too coincidental. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. You think I cursed my own husband? Lysandra's voice was dangerously quiet. We think you should approve you did not. How? Remove your veil. Show us what you hide. Demonstrate control of your magic. Lysandra's blood ran cold. They wanted her exposed, vulnerable. I refuse. Then we have no choice but to assume the worst. Brennus's eyes narrowed. The king promised you privacy, but the king is dying, and the council rules in his stead. The doors burst open, guards flooded in, and behind them a figure that made Lysandra's stomach turn. Aldrich Thornheart. Her father strode into the chamber as if he owned it. His face was hard, triumphant. Your Majesty, he bowed mockingly. Imagine my surprise when the council contacted me, asking about my dangerous daughter. You have no right to be here, Lysandra hissed. On the contrary, I have every right. Aldrich smiled, cruel. I warned them about you, about what you are, what you're capable of. Lord Thornheart has been most helpful, Brennus said. He's provided testimony about your past, about the man you killed. I didn't kill Adrian. That's not what the evidence suggests. Aldrich pulled documents from his coat. Witness statements, records of the fire, all pointing to you. Lysandra's hands shook with rage. He was framing her. Again. The council demands proof of your innocence. Brennus stood. Remove your veil, submit to examination, or we will assume you cursed the king and remove you from the castle. You can't do that. We can. Brennus's voice was final. And we will, unless you prove otherwise. Lysandra looked around the chamber, saw no allies, no friends, only enemies, and her father smiling like a wolf. She had two choices: submit to their demands or refuse and lose everything. Neither would save Lucien. She thought of Cassian, barely 3 days old, of Lucien lying in his chambers turning to ash. She thought of the veil she had worn for 3 years, the protection it offered, the shame it symbolized, and she made her choice. Lysandra's hands went to her veil. The chamber went utterly silent. She pulled it off, let it fall to the floor. Gasps echoed through the room. There on her forehead was the witch's mark, the cross-shaped brand, silver against pale skin. But Lysandra did not lower her eyes, did not shrink. She stood tall, chin high, defiant. "I am Lysandra Thornhart Caelestis," she said clearly. "Fire Witch, descendant of Alara Moonwhisper, Queen of Nocturna." She stepped forward, power gathering around her like a cloak. "My grandmother cursed the Caelestis line 500 years ago. My father," she pointed at Aldrich, "carries her blood, her magic. He has hidden it his entire life. He killed my mother to keep the secret. He killed my betrothed to frame me, and he has spent 3 years trying to destroy me to protect himself." Aldrich's face went white. "She's lying." "Am I?" Lysandra's eyes blazed. "Then explain how I could kill a man with fire magic when my powers were bound. Explain the records of our grandmother Alara. Explain why you recognized the curse the moment you saw it." The council members looked at Aldrich, suspicion dawning. "She's desperate," Aldrich snarled. "She'll say anything." "Then let's test it." Lysandra held out her hands. "My magic is still bound, by him. If I'm lying about the binding, the seal won't exist. But if he's lying," she let the implication hang. Brenna stood. "Lord Thornhart, did you bind your daughter's magic?" "For her own safety," Aldrich said quickly. "She was dangerous, uncontrolled." "Funny." Isolda's voice came from the doorway. Lysandra's sister walked in, carrying documents, evidence. "I've been investigating. Found records from the night Adrian died." She spread papers across the table. "Father wasn't home that night. He claimed to be at a council meeting, but the council records show no meeting." She pulled out another document. "I also found Mother's diary, hidden in Father's study. She wrote about discovering his magic, about his threats, about her fear." Isolde's eyes met Lysandra's. "I'm sorry, sister. I should have believed you years ago." Aldrich lunged for the documents. Guards caught him, held him back. "You have no proof," he spat. "I have enough to investigate." Brennis's voice was cold. "Lord Thornhart, you will submit to examination. If you have fire magic, we will know. And if he does," Lysandra stepped forward, "he will break the binding on my magic, or face charges for murder. Conspiracy. Fraud." Aldrich's face twisted with hate. "You'll destroy us all. Our entire bloodline will be revealed." "Good." Lysandra's voice was ice. "I'm done hiding, done being ashamed of what I am." She turned to the council. "My husband has 1 day before he dies. I know how to save him, but I need my magic unbound." She looked at Aldrich. "Release me, now." "Never. Then you'll watch him die, and live with the knowledge that you could have prevented it." Aldrich laughed, bitter, broken. "Why would I save the vampire king? Let him burn. Let this cursed bloodline end." "Because if you don't," Brenna said quietly, "we will execute you for murder, and your precious secret will matter very little when you're ash." The threat landed. Aldrich's face crumpled. He looked at Lysandra, pure hatred in his eyes. "Fine. I'll remove the binding. But know this, daughter." He leaned close, whispered so only she could hear. "You'll lose control. The magic will consume you, and you'll burn everything you love, just like Alara did." Lysandra met his gaze. "Then I'll burn, but I'll burn saving him, not destroying." Aldrich placed his hand on her forehead. Over the brand, he spoke words in the old tongue, ancient, powerful. Lysandra felt the seal crack, then shatter. Magic flooded back into her veins like wildfire, like a dam breaking. 3 years of suppressed power surging through her all at once. Fire erupted around her, flames dancing across her skin, up her arms, through her hair. She screamed. It was too much, too powerful. She couldn't control it. The council scrambled back. Aldrich stumbled away. Isolde ran to her. Lys, focus." But Lysandra couldn't hear her. The magic was consuming her, burning through her. Aldrich had been right. She was losing control. And then she felt it. Cold cutting through the fire. A presence, familiar. Beloved. Lucien. He stood in the doorway, barely able to stand. More ash than man now, but his eyes found hers through the flames. Lysandra, his voice cut through the chaos. Look at me. She met his gaze. The fire is yours. You don't serve it. It serves you. I can't control it. Yes, you can. He took a step forward. The flames parted for him. Because you are not your father, not your grandmother. You are Lysandra, and you are strong enough. She focused on his voice, on the cold certainty in his eyes. The flames began to settle, to pull back. Slowly, Lysandra drew the magic inward, contained it, controlled it. When the fire finally died, she stood alone, smoking slightly, breathing hard, but alive, in control. Lucien collapsed. Guards caught him before he hit the ground. Get him to his chambers, Dr. Theron ordered. Now! As they carried him away, Lucien's eyes found Lysandra's one last time. Save us, he mouthed. Lysandra nodded. She turned to the council. I have what I need. Lock my father in the dungeons. I'll deal with him after I save my husband. Brennus bowed. As you wish, your majesty. Guards took Aldrich away. He did not struggle, just laughed. You'll fail, he called out. The curse can't be broken. It's too old, too powerful. Lysandra watched him go. Then she walked out of the chamber. Isolde fell into step beside her. What now, her sister asked. Now I save my husband. Lysandra's voice was certain, or I die trying. Lysandra stood in Lucien's chambers. The curtains were drawn against the approaching dawn. Candles flickered. Shadows danced on walls that had witnessed 9 centuries of loneliness. Lucien lay in his bed, barely breathing, 90% ash now. The cracks had spread across his entire body. Black powder seeped from the wounds with each shallow breath. Dr. Theron stood beside the bed. His ancient face was grave. Ours, your majesty, perhaps less. When his heart fully converts to ash, the next dawn will consume him completely. Lysandra looked out the window. The sky was beginning to lighten, deep purple fading to gray. Dawn was coming. How long until sunrise? 4 hours, maybe 5. 4 hours to save him, or lose him forever. Erlis entered the chamber. The old witch had come to the castle at Lysandra's urgent summons. She carried a leather satchel filled with herbs, crystals, and tools of ancient magic. The ritual must be performed before dawn breaks, Erlis said quietly. Once the sun touches the horizon, it will be too late. Lysandra nodded, turned to the gathered crowd. Dr. Theron, Isolde, Helena, the council members who had come to witness. Everyone out, except Erlis. Your Majesty, Brennus protested. The council should observe. Get out. Lysandra's voice was fire and ice. This is between my husband and me. You'll witness the result, not the process. They filed out. Isolde squeezed Lysandra's hand as she passed. Save him, Lys. The door closed, leaving only Lysandra Erlis in Lucien's fading form. Erlis began to prepare. She drew symbols on the floor around the bed, ancient marks in white powder that glowed faintly in the candlelight. She placed crystals at each cardinal point, lit incense that filled the room with smoke that smelled of sage and something older. The ritual requires 3 elements, Erlis explained as she worked. Your blood, your fire magic, and something more difficult. What? Erlis met her eyes. You must speak your truth, all of it, no hiding, no veil. The curse feeds on secrets, on shame. To break it, you must be completely vulnerable. Lysandra's throat tightened. I've already shown my face, admitted my bloodline. That's not what I mean. Erlis's voice was gentle. You must speak what's in your heart. Every fear, every hope, every truth you've been too afraid to say aloud. To who he's barely conscious. To him, to yourself, to the universe. Erlis placed the final crystal. The curse was born from Alara's broken heart, her unspoken grief. To undo it, you must do what she could not. Speak your love without fear. Lysandra looked at Lucien, at the man who had chosen her when no one else would, who had kept his promises, who had fallen in love despite knowing it would kill him. I can do that. Erlis smiled. I know. You are braver than your grandmother ever was. The old witch stepped back, gestured to the circle. When you're ready, cut your palm. Let your blood fall on his heart. Then speak. The magic will know what to do. What if it doesn't work? Then he dies, and the curse continues for another generation. Erlis's eyes were sad, but I don't think it will come to that. You carry Alara's power. But you also carry something she lost. Hope. With that, Airlise moved to the corner of the room, watching, waiting. Lysandra stepped into the circle. Immediately she felt it. Power humming in the air. Old magic. Deep magic. The kind that had existed before kingdoms, before names. She knelt beside the bed, looked down at Lucien. His eyes were closed. His chest barely moved. Ash had replaced so much of him now. Soon there would be nothing left but dust. Lysandra pulled a small knife from her belt. The blade gleamed in the candlelight. She pressed it to her palm, drew it across. Blood welled, bright red, warm. She held her hand over Lucien's chest, over his heart. Let the blood drip. 1 drop, 2, 3. The blood hissed when it hit his skin. Steam rose. The ash around his heart began to glow. Faint, but there. Lysandra placed her other hand flat on his chest, felt the terrible coldness, felt what little remained of his heartbeat. Weak, fading. She closed her eyes, drew on the magic that now flowed freely through her veins. Fire kindled in her palm. Gentle, controlled, warm rather than burning. Golden flames spread across Lucien's chest, dancing over the ash, seeking, searching. And then Lysandra began to speak. I don't know if you can hear me, her voice cracked, but I need you to listen anyway. The flames grew brighter. 3 months ago, I stood on a platform at the mating auction. I was certain no one would choose me, certain I would die at my father's hands. I had given up hope. The ash on Lucien's chest began to crack, to shift. Then you walked in, the Vampire King, 900 years old, more powerful than anyone I'd ever known. And you looked at me, just me, not through me, not past me, at me. Her voice grew stronger. You chose me when I thought I was unchoosable. You promised me privacy when everyone else wanted to expose me. You kept every promise you made. The cracks in Lucien's chest began to glow, gold like the flames on Lysandra's hand. You said we would have no attachments, no love, and I agreed because I thought love was something that destroyed. My father's version of it destroyed my mother. My magic destroyed Adrian. Everything I loved turned to ash. Tears fell down her face, hit Lucien's chest, mingled with the blood and fire. But then you stayed, night after night. You talked to me in the darkness. You asked my opinions. You listened when I spoke. You made me feel seen, not as a witch, not as a branded criminal, as Lysandra, just Lysandra. The glow spread, up Lucien's neck, down his arms. And when I told you I was pregnant, you fell to your knees. You, a king, knelt before me. You put your hand on my stomach and you trembled. I felt you trembling. Her voice broke completely. You were afraid, but you didn't run. You stayed. You moved your study to be near me. You checked on me constantly. You counted the hours until you could come back to me. The ash was flaking away now, piece by piece, revealing pale skin underneath. Then Cassian was born, and you held him. You cried. Blood tears down your face because you loved him so much it hurt. Lysandra leaned closer, her forehead nearly touching Lucien's. You said you loved him. You said you loved me, and I watched you start to die. I watched the curse take you, and I realized something. She opened her eyes, looked at his face. I realized that I would burn the world to save you. I would face my father, unveil myself before the council, break every seal that bound me. I would tear down kingdoms and remake reality itself if it meant keeping you alive. The golden glow was spreading faster now, the ash falling away like snow. Because I love you, Lucien Calestis. I love you with everything I am, every broken piece, every scarred part, every moment of fear and hope and desperate longing. Her hand was burning now, true fire, but it didn't hurt. I love the way you look at me in the darkness, the way you listen when I talk, the way you stayed when you should have left, the way you fell in love with our son, even knowing it would kill you. Lucien's eyes opened, golden, not the gray they had been, not vampire red, pure molten gold like Cassian's. His hand came up, touched her face. Lysandra, his voice was a whisper, I can hear you. She sobbed, pressed her face into his palm. I love you, I love you, I love you. I know. His thumb wiped away her tears. I've known for weeks. I was just too afraid to say it. Say it now. Lucien pulled her down, kissed her. His lips were warm, not cold, not ice, warm like living flesh. When he pulled back, he smiled. I love you, Lysandra Thornhart Calestis. I have loved you since the first night you warned me you could burn. I have loved you through every moment of fear and denial and desperate hope. I love you, and I'm not afraid anymore. The golden light exploded. It filled the room, bright as the sun, hot as forged fire, beautiful beyond words. Lysandra felt the curse shatter, felt it break apart like glass under a hammer. 500 years of grief and rage and bitter vengeance dissolving into light. When the glow faded, Lucien sat up. The ash was gone, completely. His skin was smooth, unmarked. His eyes were gold and alive and full of wonder. He looked at his hands, turned them over. No cracks, no ash, just skin. I can feel my heart. His voice was awed. It's beating, really beating, warm, alive. Lysandra threw her arms around him, held him tight. You're alive. You're alive. He held her back, buried his face in her hair. Behind them, Airly smiled. The curse is broken. Not just for him, for the entire bloodline. She moved toward the window, drew back the curtain, and just in time, the first rays of dawn broke over the horizon. Golden light spilled into the room. Lysandra gasped, pulled back. Lucien, the sun. But Lucien was staring at the window, at the light. Slowly he stood, walked toward it. The sunlight touched his hand. He didn't burn. I don't understand. His voice shook. Vampires can't. You're not just a vampire anymore. Airly's voice was gentle. The curse didn't just bind your ability to love. It bound you to darkness, to cold, to death. When Lysandra broke it, she freed you. Completely. Lucien stepped fully into the sunlight. It bathed him in gold, warmed his skin. He closed his eyes, tilted his face up. 900 years. Tears streamed down his face. 900 years of darkness. And now, Lysandra joined him in the light, took his hand. Now you're free. He looked at her, the sun caught in her hair, made her eyes shine. The brand on her forehead was visible. But she wasn't hiding it, wasn't ashamed. She was beautiful. We're both free, he whispered. And then he kissed her, in the sunlight, with nothing between them. No veil, no darkness, no secrets, just love. The news spread through the castle like wildfire. The king had been healed. The curse was broken. The queen had saved him. By midday, the entire kingdom knew. The council called an emergency session, not to challenge, to bear witness. Lysandra and Lucien stood before them, hand in hand, Lucien still glowing with the aftermath of the ritual, his eyes gold, his skin warm. Lord Brennus bowed deeply. Your Majesties, the council offers its deepest gratitude. You have accomplished what 5 centuries of kings could not. Lucien's voice was steady. My wife accomplished it, not me. Your wife is incredible. Brennus looked at Lysandra. We owe you an apology, Your Majesty. We doubted you, questioned you. We were wrong. Lysandra inclined her head. You were afraid. Fear makes people cruel. I understand that better than most. Even so, we should have trusted our king's judgment. Brennus gestured to the other council members. They all bowed. We pledge our loyalty to both of you. There is one matter that requires resolution. Lucien's voice hardened. Aldrich Thornhart, he stands accused of murder, conspiracy, fraud, and the abuse of his own daughter. Brennus nodded. The council has reviewed the evidence, Lady Isolda's testimony, the documents, Your Majesty's account. He paused. We find him guilty on all charges. What is the sentence? For murder of nobility, the sentence is death. Brennus looked uncomfortable. However, given his bloodline connection to the curse's origin, we would defer to Queen Lysandra's judgment. All eyes turned to Lysandra. She thought of her father, of the years of cruelty, the beatings, the branding, the murder of her mother, of Adrian. She should want him dead. Part of her did. But another part, the part that had just broken a curse born of vengeance, knew that killing him would change nothing. Bring him here. Guards brought Aldrich into the chamber. He was chained, beaten, his face bruised, but his eyes still held defiance. Come to gloat, daughter, to him. Lysandra stepped forward, looked at the man who had tormented her for years. I came to offer you a choice. Aldrich laughed, bitter. What choice? Death is death. Death or exile. Lysandra's voice was calm. You can be executed for your crimes, or you can be exiled to the northern wastes, stripped of your title, your lands, your name. You'll live out your days alone, forgotten. Why would you offer me mercy? Because I'm not you. Lysandra met his eyes. You spent your life hiding from what you are, destroying anyone who reminded you of your shame. I spent my life being punished for existing. She moved closer. But I'm done with shame, done with hiding, and I'm done letting you have power over me. Aldrich's face twisted. You think you've won, but you're still a witch, still branded, still your queen. Lysandra's voice cut like a blade. Still the woman who saved the king, still the mother of the future heir, still loved, still powerful, still free. She stepped back. Take your exile father, go north, live with your choices. Think about how you destroyed everything good in your life because you were too ashamed to accept who you are. She turned to the council. Let him leave with the clothes on his back. Nothing more. If he's ever seen in this kingdom again, execute him on sight. Brennus bowed. As you wish, your majesty. Aldrich was dragged away. He didn't fight, didn't speak. But as he passed Lysandra, she heard him whisper, You're just like Alara. This will destroy you too. Lysandra watched him go. No, she said quietly, I'm nothing like her, because I chose love over vengeance. And that makes all the difference. That evening, Lysandra returned to her chambers. Isolde waited there, holding Cassian. The baby cooed when he saw his mother. Small flames danced around his tiny fists. He missed you. Isolde smiled, handed him over. We all did. Lysandra held her son, breathed in his scent, milk and magic and new life. Thank you for everything. For believing me, for standing with me. Isolde hugged her sister. I should have believed you years ago. I'm sorry it took so long. You're here now, that's what matters. A knock at the door. Lucien entered. He still looked different, warmer, more alive. He moved to Lysandra's side, looked down at Cassian. Hello, little one. Did you miss your father? Cassian reached up, grabbed Lucien's finger. The baby's golden eyes met his father's, matching ones. He has your eyes now, Lysandra observed. The curse changed me, freed me. Lucien's voice was full of wonder. I'm still a vampire, still immortal. But I'm not bound to darkness anymore. I'm something new. What will you tell the council, the kingdom? The truth. He kissed her forehead. That love broke a 500-year curse. That my queen saved me. That we're starting a new era. Isolde cleared her throat. I should give you privacy. She left quietly. Lucien sat beside Lysandra on the bed, the three of them together. Are you ready for what comes next? He asked quietly. Lysandra looked at him, at their son, at the future they would build. Yes, I'm ready. The courtyard of the Royal Academy of Elemental Arts was filled with laughter. 80 students, witches, warlocks, children with magic in their blood practiced their craft under the watchful eyes of their teachers. Fire danced, water swirled, earth shifted, air sang, magic. Open, celebrated, safe. Lysandra stood at the edge of the courtyard. Cassian balanced on her hip. He was walking now, talking in short sentences. And his magic was growing stronger every day. Small flames followed him wherever he went, golden like his eyes, harmless unless he willed them otherwise. Mama, look, he pointed at a girl creating ice sculptures. Pretty, very pretty, darling. Isolde approached. She wore the robes of the Academy's director. Her hair was pulled back, her face peaceful. The new students are settling in well. We've had requests from 3 neighboring kingdoms to send their magic children here. Will we accept them? I think we should. Isolde watched the students. Magic doesn't respect borders. Neither should education. Lysandra nodded. Make it so. A familiar presence appeared at her side. Lucien slipped his arm around her waist, kissed her cheek. His skin was warm now, no longer cold. The council meeting ran long. Did I miss anything? Just watching our future. Lysandra leaned into him. The children are thriving. Lucien tickled Cassian's stomach. The boy giggled. Flames burst around him in a joyful explosion. Other students looked over, but most just smiled. Magic was normal here. Welcome, celebrated, exactly as it should be. I have news. Lucien's voice was quiet. The Northern Border Patrol found Aldrich last month. Lysandra tensed. He's back. No, he's dead. Froze to death in the wastes during winter. Lucien paused. They found a journal. He wrote about you, about regret. Did he apologize? In his way, he admitted he was wrong. That fear drove him to cruelty. that you were always stronger than him. Lysandra was quiet for a long moment. I hope he found peace at the end. Lucien looked at her, surprised. After everything he did, he was a broken man who broke others to hide his own cracks. She shifted Cassian to her other hip. I pity him, but I won't let his memory have power over me anymore. Lucien kissed her temple. You are incredible. I'm just tired of carrying hate. They stood together, watching the students, watching the future unfold. Dr. Theron approached. His ancient face held excitement. Your Majesties, there's news you should know. What is it? More children are manifesting magic all across the kingdom, in villages, cities, noble houses. He paused. Hundreds of them, far more than we've seen in centuries. Lysandra and Lucien exchanged glances. Why now? Lysandra asked. Earlies appeared from the Academy's main building. When you broke the curse, you didn't just free Lucien, you freed magic itself. She gestured at the students. The curse was tied to suppression, to hiding, to shame. It poisoned not just the Caelestis line, but the entire kingdom's relationship with magic. She smiled. You broke that, openly, with love, with acceptance. Magic is answering, blooming in children who would have remained dormant. The world is changing because you changed it. Lysandra looked at the courtyard, at the 80 students, who would soon be hundreds. Thousands. We'll need more teachers, more space. We'll build more academies. Lucien's voice was certain. In every major city, we'll make magic education as common as reading and writing. Isolde joined them. I've already drawn up expansion plans. With your Majesty's approval, we can break ground next month. Lysandra looked at her sister, at her husband, at the old witch who had guided her, at her son who represented everything they were building. Approved. The official coronation took place that same week. The entire kingdom gathered, nobles and commoners alike, vampires and humans and those with magic in their blood. The cathedral was filled to capacity. Thousands more waited in the streets outside. They had come to see her, the veiled queen who hid no more. Lysandra stood before the altar. She wore a gown of deep crimson and gold. Fire colors, her hair was unbound, flowing down her back, and her face was bare, uncovered, the brand visible for all to see. She did not hide it, did not apologize for it. It was part of her story, but it did not define her. The high priest raised his voice. People of Nocturna, we gather to crown your queen, Lysandra of House Thornheart, House Caelestis, Fire Witch, Curse Breaker, Mother, Wife. He placed the crown on her head, silver and gold intertwined, flames wrought in metal. Rise, Queen Lysandra, defender of the realm, champion of the marked, mother of the new age. Lysandra rose, turned to face the crowd. The cathedral erupted in cheers. She had expected whispers, the same rejection she had known all her life. Instead, she saw acceptance, gratitude, hope. A little girl in the front row held up a sign. Crude letters spelled out, "Thank you for making magic safe." Lysandra's throat tightened. She descended from the altar, walked to the girl, knelt down. "What's your name?" "Mira, your Majesty." The girl was no more than 7. "I make flowers grow." My parents were scared. "But then they heard about you, about the academy. They brought me here. Are you happy at the academy?" Mira nodded enthusiastically. "I love it. I'm not scared anymore." Lysandra hugged the girl, felt small arms wrap around her neck. When she pulled back, there were tears in her eyes. "You never have to be scared of who you are, Mira. Promise me." "I promise." Lysandra stood, looked out at the crowd, at the thousands of faces. Some she knew, most she didn't, but they were all looking at her with the same expression. Hope. She raised her voice. Let it carry through the cathedral, through the open doors, into the streets beyond. For 3 years I hid my face. I was ashamed of what I was, of what I could do. I believed the world when it told me I was dangerous. Broken. Wrong. The crowd was silent, listening. But I was never those things. I was afraid. And fear left to fester becomes shame. Shame becomes silence. Silence becomes suffering. She touched the brand on her forehead. This mark was meant to label me, to warn others of danger. But the only danger I ever posed was to the lies we tell ourselves. The lie that magic is evil, that difference is dangerous, that love is weakness. Her voice grew stronger. I stand before you today, branded, unveiled, unashamed. And I tell you this, Your magic is not a curse. Your differences are not flaws. Your love is not weakness. She gestured to the academy visible through the cathedral windows. We are building a new world, one where children like Mira don't have to hide, where magic is celebrated, not feared, where being different is not just tolerated, but treasured. The crowd began to cheer, softly at first, then louder. This is not just my kingdom, it is yours, all of yours, and I promise you as your queen that I will fight every day to make it a place where everyone can stand unveiled, unafraid, free. The cheering became deafening. Lysandra returned to the altar, to Lucian's side. He took her hand, raised it high. Your queen, he shouted, Lysandra the Firebringer, Lysandra the Free. The crowd took up the chant. Lysandra the Free, Lysandra the Free. In the front row Isolde wept, proud, grateful. Beside her Erlise smiled. The old witch's eyes shone with unshed tears. And in Isolde's arms Cassian clapped his tiny hands, flames dancing around his fingers. That evening at sunset, Lysandra and Lucienne walked through the castle gardens with Cassian. The garden had been expanded, redesigned. It now held plants from across the kingdom, from every climate, every region, a living testament to diversity, to growth. Cassian toddled among the flowers, touching petals, making them bloom with tiny bursts of magic. Lysandra's hand rested on her stomach, on the new life growing there. She was pregnant again. 3 months along, the physician had confirmed it last week. Another child, another piece of the future. Lucian noticed her gesture, smiled. When will you tell Cassian? Soon. He'll be a wonderful big brother. Lucian called to their son, Cassian, come here, little flame. The boy ran to them, nearly tripped over his own feet. Lucian caught him, swung him up. Papa. Lysandra touched Cassian's cheek. You're going to have a little brother or sister. Cassian's eyes went wide. Really? Really? Can I teach them magic? Lysandra laughed. Yes, darling, you can teach them magic. Cassian wiggled down, ran back to the flowers. His laughter echoed off the castle walls. Lucian wrapped his arms around Lysandra from behind. His chin rested on her shoulder. Thank you. For what? For this, for all of it? For giving me a family, a future, a reason to be more than just a king. Lysandra leaned back against him. You were always more. You just needed permission to show it. They stood together as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. Fire colors, their colors. In the distance, the academy bells rang, students finishing their lessons, teachers preparing for tomorrow, the world turning, growing, changing, all because two broken people had chosen love over fear, connection over isolation, light over darkness. I used to think immortality was a curse, Lucian murmured, endless years with nothing to fill them, no one to share them with. And now I know it's a gift. He turned her in his arms, kissed her, because I get to spend forever with you. Lysandra smiled against his lips. Forever sounds perfect. They kissed as the sun disappeared, as stars began to appear, as night fell gently over the kingdom. In the nursery, preparations were being made for another child. In the academy, students dreamed of the magic they would master. In villages and cities across the realm, children with power in their blood grew up unafraid. And in the garden under the stars, a family stood together. A vampire who could walk in sunlight, a witch who stood unveiled, a child who carried both legacies, and a future bright with promise. They had been called dangerous, cursed, broken. But they were none of those things. They were free, and that freedom would echo through generations, through centuries, through time itself. The story would be told and retold, of the veiled queen and the cursed king, of the fire that melted ice, of the love that broke a 500-year curse. But to them, it was simply life, their life, hard-won, precious, true. And as Lysandra looked at her husband, her son, and the child growing inside her, she knew one thing with absolute certainty. Every moment of pain, every year of hiding, every scar and brand and broken piece, it had all led here, to this moment, to this family, to this love, and she would not change a single second of it. Come on, she said, taking Lucien's hand. Let's go home. Together they walked back to the castle, Cassian between them, each parent holding one small hand. Flames danced in the boy's wake, golden, warm, beautiful, not dangerous, just magic, just love, just life. And above them the stars shone down on a kingdom transformed, where fear had given way to hope, where shame had given way to pride, where darkness had given way to light. The veiled queen veiled no more, the cursed king cursed no more. Free, finally, completely, forever.